We're now going to cover how to do column and row dropping and renaming. So here's our data frame. And so you can drop columns pretty easily with the drop method. And the way it works is, it's a little confusing. There's a couple ways of doing this. I'm going to show you one way. So if you use the columns parameter, you set it equal to the column you want to drop. So pretty simple. You say, all right, I want to drop the columns, the city column. Now this does not operate in place. So you have to assign this to a new variable name if you want to keep the result. So notice that CS still has the city column. This return this data frame, you have to assign it over here using the assignment statement to a new variable if you want to keep it. All right, so you can drop multiple columns. You can say, I want to drop city and UGDS and SAT total. So this does not work in place like almost all methods in pandas. A new data frame is returned, new copy of the data frame is returned. So that's how you can drop columns. You can also drop rows. And here I just have the rows already pre-typed just because they're a little bit longer. So if you do drop over here and there is you don't say rows equal, you actually use index. So index equal rows like this. This will drop these two rows like that. Okay, so pretty simple. Just use the drop method, columns equals or index equals. And then you can also rename columns over here. So here's CS again. So the way the rename method works is pretty simple. Use a dictionary to map the original column names with the new column names. So say stabber, we want to give a better definition over here. Say state abbreviation. And then we want maybe religious affiliation, rel-affil, to be mapped to religious affiliation like this. And that will rename it. I misspelled rel-affil, which is why it did not come over here. Actually, that's not true. I needed to say columns equals. Sorry. By default, it's going to look at the row index. So that's an important thing I missed. So you can actually rename the rows as well. That's fine. But to rename the column, you say columns equals. So it works just like drop, where you say columns equals the columns you want to drop. Rename, you say columns equals, and then pass it in a dictionary that maps the original name to the new name. You have to assign it again to a variable. It does not happen in place. You can also rename all your columns at once. So to do this, you just use an assignment statement. You do cs.columns. So this is an attribute to get all the columns, and then you just assign it to a list of strings that have these, it has to be a list the same size, so make sure you have the same number. This is a more dangerous operation. Obviously, you're overwriting all of the old columns, and you have to have them the same. So if you get these in a wrong order, then you might not realize what you've done. So you have to just make sure that these columns are in fact what you want. Typically, you're doing the rename method. But anyways, that is one way to get to rename the columns and to do all of them at once without using a method. All right, so that's dropping and renaming rows and columns.